Once upon a time in Japan, an ugly boy named Ichiko was sitting in class, confused after he realized that all his classmates, the administration, and the faculty are all girls, and there is not a single male inside the academy except him. Wish that was me. Then a vice teacher named Maya entered the classroom and told all the students that they had been officially accepted into the RIZZED Academy, a boarding school where students must complete 3 years to graduate. Ichiko was very embarrassed that all of his classmates were staring at him from all sides as if he were a new kind of person they were seeing for the first time. He noticed that one of the classmates was a girl named Haoki, a childhood friend he hadn't seen in 6 years, and as soon as she saw him staring at her, she turned her face the other way. Ichiko wondered if she hated him. Then his thoughts were interrupted by Maya's voice asking him to introduce himself to his classmates. He tried to pretend to be calm and stood up to say his name out loud, but he began to feel the symptoms of social phobia as his classmates looked at him without saying a word. Ichiko thought that he should not be quiet or he would gain a reputation among them as a gloomy man, and then he was surprised by a woman who crushed his head without warning and turned out to be his teacher Chifu, his older sister, and wondered why she was at the academy as she rarely returns home due to her mysterious work. Chifu then introduces herself and tells them all that she will be their class teacher and in charge of training them for 1 year. Contrary to Ichiko's reaction, the girls are excited to have Chifu as their class teacher, and she turns out to be very popular among the students. Frustrated, Chifu called her class stupid and wondered if the academy was deliberately putting only stupid people in her class, with her younger brother Ichika at the top of the list. She then turned to him and warned him not to fail to introduce himself properly. When he called her by her first name, she slammed his head against the table and ordered him to call her teacher. The students began to whisper that she was the reason he was at the academy as a student despite being the only male, and that she had given him the opportunity to use the Infinite Stratos suit. Shifuyu then addressed the students and said that she would have them memorize and master the basics within 6 months. Ichika then remembered that his sister was a first-generation Japanese representative in the RIZZED and won first place in most of the competitions she participated in, but she retired and suddenly disappeared for no reason. Maya then began to explain what is known as the RIZZED suit, a multiform suit that was developed in Japan 10 years ago and was originally a space suit to make it easier for astronauts to move freely in outer space, but now its space-related development was halted due to the Alaska Treaty and the military ban on its use, and it ended up being used for competition, and a new sport genre was created specifically for it. It turns out that the RIZZED Academy is the only academy that aims to train pilots to use the suit efficiently, with students from all over the world. Ichika is confused as to why the suit is only used by girls, and he is the only male who can use it. At recess, all the girls gathered and whispered around him, and some of them thought about trying to take the initiative to talk to him while he sat there absent-mindedly wishing that someone would come to save him from this situation. But his thoughts were interrupted by Haoki's approach and asked him to talk privately. After they left the classroom, Ichika marveled at her silence, even though it had been 6 years since their last meeting, while she was confused and didn't say a word. Ichika remembered that she had won the National Kendo Championship last year. She wondered if he knew about her winning the championship. He told her that he found out about it from the newspaper, and she felt ashamed that he still remembered her after all these years. Meanwhile, a group of girls were watching them from afar and were disappointed to find out that they knew each other. When they returned to the classroom to resume classes, Ichika was shocked when he realized that he had to memorize a huge amount of information in a short period of time through the huge book open in front of him, and when Maya approached him to check on him, he admitted that his empty head couldn't understand anything she taught during class. Chifu wondered if he had read the reference before joining the academy, as it is compulsory to read it before entering the academy, and he hesitantly told her that he had made a mistake and got rid of it, so she slapped him with the book in her hand and told him that she would bring him a new copy later and he would have to memorize it within a week, and he felt that a week is not enough time to memorize a book of this size, but he had no other choice. After class, a girl named Cecilia approached him and asked to have a private conversation with him. When she saw his indifferent reaction, she felt irritated and told him that he should feel honored that she was talking to him. He replied coldly that he didn't know who she was. She told him that she was the top student in the entrance exam and the representative of England in the RIZZED. When he asked her to ask a question, she mocked him, calling him low class compared to noble people like her. He asked her what it meant to be a student representing England. She was shocked and sarcastically wondered if all the men in Japan were so lacking in knowledge. She then told him that she was one of the elite chosen to represent their country as pilots using the RIZZED suit. She continued to brag about herself around him, and before she left, she told him that she expected a lot from him as the only boy who could use the RIZZED suit. Then she smugly told him on her way out of class that she would teach him anything he didn't understand if he came to her crying, and went on and on about how she had aced the entrance exam and that she was the only one who could beat the instructor. Ichika told her that he too had beaten the instructor in the entrance exam, and she was furious that it wasn't her accomplishment alone and decided to leave. After class, Ichika was on his way back to the dorm and found the girls following him like kittens, full of curiosity. He entered entered his room and found that his roommate was in the bathroom. Unlike you watching go take a shower, he got confused and wanted to rush out, but she came out wearing a towel, and when he saw her face, he realized that his roommate would be Hoki. Hoki was embarrassed and wondered why he was here, while he wondered why they were sharing a room together and not the rest of his roommates. So Hoki decided to attack him with a wooden sword, and he rushed out and closed the door behind him. He begged her to let him in before something bad happened, and when she opened the door, he found her already dressed. She asked him what he was going to do about it, since boys and girls are not supposed to live in the same room after they are 7 years old. Then it occurred to her that maybe he had deliberately asked the administration to live in the same room with her. He told her not to be stupid, and she got angry and attacked him with the wooden sword again. He found that she had a terrifying appearance up close, and the girls were peeking through the door, so Hoki decided to calm her down and told him that she had conditions for letting him stay with her. He protested that he wanted to use the restroom earlier, but she told him that she couldn't stand the sweat after she finished her training at the kendo club, and that she didn't feel comfortable showering somewhere else. Ichika thought that the academy must have separate bathrooms, but in his case, all the bathrooms would be for women only, and imagined that they might make an exception for him to use them. Hoki accused him of becoming a pervert during the years she hadn't seen him. When he found her about to attack him again, he went to pick up the nearest sword, but was surprised to find a bra hanging from the end of the blade. She immediately took it from him. He said, "So you're wearing a bra?" and she threw the sword at him. The next day, they sat eating breakfast together in the food court, and Ichika wondered how long she would be angry with him. She replied angrily that she was not angry despite her vindictive facial expressions, and when he called her by her first name, it only made her angrier. He then asked some of the girls to join them and sit next to him, which Ichika didn't mind. They noticed that he ate a lot more food during breakfast than they did, and Hoki decided to leave after she finished her breakfast. The girls asked him if he had a special relationship with Hoki, and he replied that they were childhood friends, as they used to go to the same kendo club when they were young and were in the same class at school until the 4th grade, and he couldn't remember any more about their past together. Chifuyu's presence then interrupted them, sharply ordering them to finish their food quickly and telling them that she was the first-year dormitory supervisor and would force latecomers to the academy to run 10 laps around the track. She then announces that she will choose the class representative who will compete in the interclass league, and tells them that the class representative will have to attend student council and committee meetings, and when she asks the students to nominate the most suitable person for the position, all the girls nominate Ichika. Ichika was surprised by their decision to make him the class representative. Before he could object, Cecilia beat him to it. She said it was embarrassing to have a boy represent their class, and she couldn't stand it. She started gossiping again and bragging about her social status, which made Ichika furious and told her that England didn't have much to brag about. Cecilia took this as an insult to her country and challenged him to a duel in front of everyone, and stipulated that he would become her slave if he won. When Ichika spoke confidently that he would win against her, he was surprised that the girls burst out laughing around him, as he has no chance against a girl who uses an AS suit no matter how skillful he is. Yet Ichika did not back down from accepting the challenge, and Chifuyu announced that their competition would be held in a few days in the academy's ring. A few days later, Chifuyu tells Ichika that he currently doesn't have a ready-to-use suit, and that it will take some time for a special suit to be made for him. The girls are surprised that a freshman like him would get a special suit, and speculate that the government may have intervened. Ichika was amazed at everyone's reaction and had no idea how cool it was to have your own suit. Cecilia stood in front of him and sarcastically told him that she was glad he didn't know how important it was. He was surprised when he realized that she had her own AS suit because she was a representative of her country. She then explains that there are only 467 suits around the world, and of all the humans who belong to the elite, only the most elite get a personalized suit. One of the girls continues that the technology that produces the core of the suit has not been released yet, and that Professor Tabane is the one who made all the suits in the world at the moment. Ichika realized that Hoki's sister was basically responsible for making the AS suit, as no one else had been able to create a similar core for the suit, so companies and organizations were experimenting with the cores they had, offering to develop and train them. Chifuyu then added that special suits are only given to the aristocracy and the rich, but his situation will be exceptional, as she decided to give him a special suit for the purpose of data collection, and the girls were surprised when she mentioned that the professor is the older sister of their classmate Hoki. Questions began to rain down on her about Tabane and whether she knows her whereabouts, as her whereabouts are unknown and all organizations and companies are constantly looking for her, to which she replied sharply that she is not related to that woman and should not tell them anything about her, and Ichika wondered that Hoki and Tabane have a bad relationship with each other. Maya then began to explain the lesson on the capabilities of the AS suit, as it has a special energy barrier that protects the owner's body and is equipped with a slight part of consciousness similar to artificial intelligence, and the owner of the suit can chat and spend time with her to increase their knowledge of each other and help form bonds between them. Ichika sits like an idiot, unable to understand a single word, as Hoki writes everything down in her notebook and then goes back to looking out the window again. After class, he goes over to her and invites her her to lunch, then asks the rest of their classmates if anyone wants to join them. 3 girls say yes, and he suggests to Haoki that they try to blend in. When he finds her still sitting down, he grabs her and forces her to stand up. She was furious and pushed him away, and was surprised that he fell hard. The girls who wanted to join them quietly withdrew, but he insisted on having lunch with her and dragged her out of the classroom. After they reached the food court, he realized that she was still angry for some reason, so they sat down to eat lunch together. He asked her if she could help him learn more about Iz since he didn't want to lose to Cecilia, and she told him that she had nothing to do with his being carried away by her petty provocation. He begged her to help him learn more before the duel. They were interrupted when a girl joined them after hearing that he wanted to learn about Iz. She offered to help him, and to his surprise, Haoki agreed to teach him after being jealous. The girl told her that she could teach him better than she could as she is a senior student. Haoki said that she is Tabane's sister, which gives her an advantage and more knowledge about how the suit works, so the girl got angry and left quickly. After that, Ichika and Haoki headed to a place dedicated to training, and soon Ichika began to sweat from fatigue, so Haoki sarcastically wondered why his physical condition had deteriorated to this extent and asked him about the club he had been attending for the past 3 years, and he told her that he was spending his time at home, so she decided to train him for 3 hours a day after school before starting to train him to use the suit, and he had no choice but to follow her instructions. After the training was over, Haoki wondered if she had been too strict with him and wondered if he had changed so much in 6 years. She remembered when they used to train together as children, yet she insisted on her decision to have him undergo intensive training starting tomorrow. Perverted thoughts began to creep into her head about being alone with him after school, but she stopped thinking about it and convinced herself that the reason for her discomfort was Ichika's vulnerability. A week later, Ichika expresses his annoyance that he's only practicing kendo and not how to use the suit. She explains that his own suit hasn't arrived yet, so he asks her to teach him at least the basics that don't require a suit. Then Maya's voice interrupted to tell him that his suit had arrived, and Shifu told him to get ready as he could use the ring for a limited time. When Ichika saw his suit, he was amazed at how fancy it looked, like a robot from the Transformers movie. Then Shifu told him that he would have to get into the habit of using the suit during the duel. He felt he was in trouble since Haoki hadn't taught him anything about using the suit for a whole week. When he touched the suit, he felt a different sensation than usual and convinced himself that everything would be fine and that he could feel the familiarity at first glance. He put the suit on and began to familiarize himself with the internal system. Then Maya told him that Cecilia's suit was highly rated and warned him that he could take a huge amount of damage to his armor energy. When he saw Cecilia, she told him that she was going to give him one last chance to back out of the duel, as she had high confidence in winning, but he insisted on facing her, so she decided to attack first and managed to hit him with a high damage attack. Ichika falls to the ground and tries to dodge Cecilia's attacks as much as possible and finds that he cannot follow the suit's reflexes, and when he finds that his armor is dropping, he decides to start attacking her and finds that all he has is a sword, making a mockery of her as she continues to attack him without giving him a chance to get close to her. Despite everyone's encouragement, Haoki was worried about him, and Cecilia, impressed that he was able to hold out so long against her suit, decided to make a decision and increase the strength of her attacks, but Ichika was able to get close to her and force her to move to a safe distance. Then he realized that her weapons don't move without her command, so she couldn't attack him while trying to dodge his strikes. He managed to destroy quite a few of her weapons by anticipating the direction of her next attack, but he was surprised when she fired 2 missiles at him at once. When he was hit by the missiles, everyone thought he was finished, but Shifu realized that his suit had saved him, and Cecilia was surprised that he didn't take any damage from the missiles. They found that the shape of his suit had changed after they had completed their harmony, and Cecilia realized that he had been fighting her all this time using the initial settings. When Ichika examined his sword, he found that it was the same sword that Shifu had used in the past and realized that she had deliberately given him her weapon, so he decided not to let her down and won his first fight. He managed to destroy Cecilia's missile array, and when he was about to attack her with the sword, his armor energy reached 0 and Cecilia was declared the winner of the fight. Ichika then wonders why he lost, and Shifu tells him that his armor stopped working while he was attacking Cecilia because his suit was incompatible with the rest of the AS suits because it wasn't completed yet. Frustrated, Maya gives him the AS rule book to get more information. In the evening, Ichika and Haoki were on their way to the dormitory, and he was frustrated that Cecilia had become the class representative. Haoki told him that starting tomorrow he would start practicing IS. When she asked him if he still wanted her to train him, he said she was the person he felt most comfortable hanging out with and would be able to train him. Meanwhile, Cecilia was in her room taking a shower and wondered why she felt upset even though she had won the fight. A few days later, Shifu practically trained the students in the basics of AS. She asked Ichika and Cecilia to use their flight suits. When Ichika tried to operate his suit, he found that he could not operate it, and Shifu told him that a skilled pilot should not take more than a second to operate it. Ichika focused his attention on the suit and managed to turn it on and put it on. Then they began to fly together and found that he was slower than Cecilia by a huge huge difference in speed. Cecilia suggested that he use his imagination while flying, and he told her that the feeling of flying in the air was still strange to him, so she offered to explain to him how the suit works after class. Chifu interrupted them before she could get an answer, ordering them to perform a sudden dive and return to the arena, which Cecilia did brilliantly, while Ichika fell like a meteor in front of them, unable to fully control the movement of the suit. Everyone rushes over to check on him and finds that he's still alive, but he's made a big hole in the ground from his fall and is sitting awkwardly. While Haoki is scolding him, Cecilia rushes over to check on him and tells him to go to the hospital. The cameraman knew what he was doing, and Ichika marvels at her concern for him. Haoki approached them and said that he would be fine as long as he was wearing the suit when he fell, and they started arguing about it and exchanging strong words as Ichika marveled at their sudden behavior towards each other. Ichika was then surprised to find his classmates celebrating him as the new class representative after Cecilia relinquished her right to the position, admitting that before the fight she had a childish idea of competing against him and giving up the position to help him gain some popularity. The members of the press club then joined them to take pictures of Ichika and Cecilia. The photographer suggested taking a picture of Ichika and Cecilia together, and Cecilia took the opportunity to take a souvenir photo with him and keep a copy of it in front of Haoki. But as soon as the photographer pressed the button, all the girls entered the photo frame, headed by Haoki. Ichika returned to the room with Haoki and lay on his bed feeling exhausted, then asked her if she would be happy if she were him. She threw a pillow at him and asked him to turn around so she could change her clothes. The next day, Ichika sat with his classmates discussing the approaching class tournament and realized that the second class representative had been replaced by a new transfer student, so he was surprised that there was a transfer student at this time of the year. His classmate Yuko tells him that she's a girl from China, but they don't have to worry about her strength as long as their class has two people with their own suits. But they are interrupted by the entrance of Lingyin, who tells them that she too has her own IS suit and that no one in their class stands a chance against her. Cecilia realized that she and Ichika already knew each other after he recognized her on sight, and when Lingyin said she had come to declare war on their class, Ichika wondered why she was trying to pretend to be cool. Before she could complain, Chifu hit her on the head to ask her to leave before the start of the next class. She told him she would come back to him to resume their conversation. When they met in the dining hall, Ichika expressed his surprise that Lingyin was the new transfer student. She told him that she wanted to keep it a secret to make their reunion a surprise, and Ichika found that she still loved ramen as usual, while the other girls were upset about their close relationship. Ichika and Lingyin sat at the same table, and the others sat eavesdropping from the neighboring table. Lingyin expressed her surprise when she saw him on the news after he joined the academy. He said that he never imagined he would end up in a place like this. When she asked him why he joined the academy, he told her that when he went to take the exam, he got lost and wandered around until he entered a large room with an AS suit in the center. Although there was a sign forbidding anyone to enter the room, he did not pay attention to it, and when he saw the suit, he approached it and put his hand on it, and then he was surprised that the suit responded to him and became the first male to succeed in using the AS suit. Then Cecilia and Haoki got angry and jealous and went to their table and asked him to give them an explanation about the nature of his relationship with Lingyin. He told them that they were just childhood friends, and then he introduced them to her and told her that Haoki was the first childhood friend he had as a child, and she was happy that he called her the first. Lingyin then asked him to let her watch him train with his suit, ignoring Cecilia's words, which made her feel irritated, while Haoki told her that she was responsible for Ichika's training and refused to accept any help from the enemy. Lingyin arrogantly asked them to leave as she wanted to have a private conversation with Ichika in private. They were furious and started arguing about who was closer to him, and Haoki was surprised when Lingyin told them that he used to have lunch at her house from time to time. Ichika corrects this and says that he used to go to the Chinese restaurant that Lingyin's family owned. Then Lingyin decides to leave and meet him after school for training. In the evening, Cecilia is stunned to find that Haoki will participate in Ichika's training using the Japanese full production model suit after she gets permission to use it. Cecilia gets jealous and decides to use her suit to participate in training with them, making Ichika feel awkward, and in the evening, he catches his breath from exhaustion after a 2v1 training session. After they left, Ichika went to the locker room and wondered if it would be like this until the league tournament. Lingyin joined him and took advantage of the fact that they were finally alone somewhere and asked him if he felt lonely after she left in the past. He told her that he missed having someone to play with as a kid. She told him that they should have a lot to talk about now that they were reunited. He asked her if she had told their middle school friends that she was back, and she got angry and told him that she didn't mean for them to talk about that kind of thing. Before she could finish her sentence, Ichika got cold and told her that he had to go back to his room. When she realized that he was living with Haoki, she asked him what his relationship with her was, and he told her that she was his first childhood friend, the second childhood friend he had, and the reason he was staying with her was because the academy hadn't prepared a room for him. Lingyin decided to go see Haoki and asked to switch rooms with her as she was uncomfortable staying in the same room with a man. She replied that she didn't complain about the current situation and refused to change rooms. Lingyin ignored her and asked Ichika if he remembered their promise. Haoki is furious and decides to use the wooden sword to attack her, but Lingyin counters with a limb of her own suit, and they are surprised by her quick reaction and the operation of the suit. When Ichika asks about the promise she talked about, she thinks he still remembers it, but he asks her if she means that she will give him food every day after she becomes a good cook. She slapped him and told him that men who forget their promises can't be considered men. He was surprised by her reaction because he remembered the promise as she told him. She said he didn't remember it correctly and refused to explain what the promise really meant. She then challenged him to a competition in the season's league, with the loser having to do whatever the winner asked him to do. Ichika was nervous about having to face Lingyin in the first round, so Haoki told him that if he used the techniques he had practiced, he would have a good chance of winning. Then he went to the ring and prepared to face Lingyin, and as soon as the fight started, Ichika attacked her. The two began to clash and continued to exchange attacks, with Lingyin gaining the advantage in the fight. Then Ichika felt that he had to get far enough away from her to avoid taking more damage, but she continued to follow him to close the distance between them. She then used her most powerful weapons and managed to hit him so hard that he fell to the ground and his armor energy began to drop. And once he regained his balance, she continued to attack him, which he was able to dodge with difficulty. Then he decided to try to attack her and gain an advantage before it was too late. He remembered when he was training under Chifu and complained that his suit only had one weapon. She told him that she had won the world championship with just that one weapon, and that was all he needed. Then he remembered her advice on how to dodge long-range attacks and was frustrated that he wouldn't be able to master them all at the same time, but she told him that he was the best person for the task of mastering all the techniques at the same time. He told Lingyin that he would fight her seriously from now on, so she decided to show him the difference between them and used her sharp weapons to chase after him to damage him. Maya realizes that the system has been disrupted, and when Shifu realizes that someone has broken through the ring's protective shield, she announces the end of the match and orders them to withdraw immediately. Meanwhile, Shika looked around and didn't know what was happening until Lingyin told him to return to his spot immediately and she would buy him some time to escape, but he refused to flee and left a girl behind, so she told him that he was the weakest party in this situation and that he should run away and that the teachers would soon come to take care of the intruder. While they were talking, they were surprised by a beam attack on Lingyin, but Ichika saved her just in time and kept dodging lasers in the air. Then a giant monster appeared in front of them in the debris and Ichika tried to communicate with it as one of the Is Maya told them to run away from the arena immediately. Ichika decides to buy time for the others to leave safely, but the intruder rushes towards them and attacks them, and they decide to make a plan to match his strength until backup arrives. After the clash begins, Maya loses contact with them completely, and Chifu realizes they have no choice but to rely on them and wait. She pretends to be cold, but that soon fails when Maya realizes that she put salt in her coffee instead of sugar. Cecilia then asked for permission to use her suit and participate in the battle alongside them, but Chifu told them there was nothing they could do as the ring's armor had risen to level 4 and no one could get in or out. Chifu realized that the intruder had deliberately done this to get Ichika and Lingyin alone, so Cecilia suggested that they turn to the government for help as this is an emergency, and she said that she could get the seniors to break through the shield, and once it is opened, she will send an army of warriors. Then she added that Cecilia would not be part of the relief force as her suit is not suitable for fighting intruders or she would get in the way of the support forces, and she has not been trained in teamwork to get along with others. On the other side, Ichika and Lingyin continued to try to damage the intruder, but to no avail, and Ichika failed to aim at it despite being close enough and felt he was in trouble for not being able to use the barrier canceling technique again. Ichika suggested that Lingyin run away, but Lingyin refused and insisted on continuing to fight beside him. When Ichika got close enough, he suspected that the person inside the suit was human. Lingyin begins to think about it when she notices that he doesn't attack them while they're talking, as if he's listening to them, and realizes that Ichika means that he can beat him if he's just a robot, as he'll be able to use his maximum weapon power to execute his attack without being dodged by the intruder. Before he could move, he found Haoki standing on the ledge, encouraging him to beat the intruder as hard as he could. To his surprise, the intruder was now targeting her for his next attack, and as Lingyin prepared to shoot him, Ichika stood in front of her and asked her to shoot him. As she did so, his suit's armor energy was fully charged, and he got the boost he needed to head towards the intruder and cut off his arm with his sword. However, the intruder pushed him away and aimed his other arm at him, and Cecilia took the opportunity to attack and stop him, managing to take him down in one fell swoop. Before they could loosen their defenses, he found that he could still move and took aim at Ichika and managed to inflict heavy damage. Ichika regained consciousness in the hospital and found Lingyin next to him, trying to kiss him while he slept, but she pulled back just in time. When he asked her what happened to the intruder, she told him that he had stopped moving and that no one else was hurt. He looked out the window and remembered that this was the view when they talked about the meal she would give him when they were young, and wondered what the meaning of the promise she made to him was, which was different from what he thought, and guessed that she wanted to sell him the meals. Lingyin denied it and told him that she wanted him to eat her meals to help her improve her cooking. He said he felt like eating the food her father cooked himself, and she embarrassingly told him that her family no longer owns a restaurant after her parents separated, which is why she came back from China. Chika, sensing her frustration, offers to take a walk together one day after he recovers, and when she thinks he's inviting her out on a date, they are interrupted by Cecilia entering to check on him, and when she notices Ling Yin, she gets angry and rushes towards her. Then Boki joins them and they start arguing as usual. Meanwhile, Chifu and Maya disassemble and analyze the alien robot and discover that its core is not registered among the 467 cores that exist around the world. A few days later, Ichika went to visit his friend Dan at home, envying him for joining an all-girl academy and thinking he was having the time of his life there. He told him that it was the opposite, but that he felt comfortable after Ling Yin moved in with him. Dan's sister, Ran, bursts into the room to tell him it's time for lunch, unaware of Ichika's presence and embarrassed to be seen with her messy appearance and untidy clothes, and when they go out for lunch, she shyly asks him to make himself at home. He noticed that she had already changed her clothes, and when he asked her if she was going out on a date, she angrily denied it. Dan realized that he was acting the same way at the academy and felt sorry for Ling Yin, but Ichika had no idea what he was talking about. The next evening when Ichika returned to the academy, he was surprised by Maya telling him that Haoki was moving into a separate room. Haoki was confused and tried to put off the move until later, but he jokingly told her not to worry about it as he would be able to wake up early without her. So she grabbed her luggage and left the room for him immediately while he wondered why she was upset. Before he went to bed, Haoki knocked on his bedroom door, and when he opened it, he offered to go on a date with her as she won the class championship. Meanwhile, the press club girls were eavesdropping and decided to spread the news around the academy. The next day, everyone knew about Ichika and Haoki's date, and the other girls decided to do their best to win the class league and get a chance to go out with him instead of her. Cecilia had no idea what her classmates were talking about, so Haoki refused to tell her and played dumb. The press girls felt that they had gone a little too far in spreading the rumor, and one of them gave inaccurate details. Then Ichika entered the classroom and was surprised that everyone was so happy about something. At the beginning of class, Maya introduced a new transfer student, and to everyone's surprise, it was a boy named Charles from France, and Ichika was no longer the only boy at the academy. The girls in the class are overjoyed that another boy has joined the academy, and Ichika quickly steals the spotlight. Shifu then tells them that they will be doing joint training with the second class in the use of the ayahs and asks Ichika to take good care of Charles. Ichika took him, and they quickly exited the classroom as the girls were changing and told him to get used to moving fast, especially during the training sessions, and that they would be changing in the private rooms of the training grounds. They were soon surrounded by the girls from the other classes, and Charles wondered why the girls were acting so strangely towards them. Ichika told him that they were the only guys who had been able to operate the IS so far, and they kept running away from them until they got to the locker room. When Ichika started to change, Charles felt embarrassed and turned his face the other way and acted more like a girl than an academy girl, so Ichika told him to hurry up as their homeroom teacher is very strict. Then he noticed that Charles was able to change his clothes in less time than expected and found that his clothes were slightly different from the academy's. He told him that he was a special model made by his family's company, the largest IS company in France, and Ichika realized that he looked like a nobleman. During training, Chifu decided to have Ling Yin and Cecilia have a sparring match, and when she saw that they lacked enthusiasm for the training, she told them that this was their chance to prove their skills to Ichika. They got excited and started showing off, and suddenly they all saw Maya falling from a high height in her suit towards them and ended up crushing Ichika to the ground. Chifu then decided that Maya should face Ling Yin and Cecilia and told them not to underestimate her or they would be beaten badly. When the fight started, Cecilia and Ling Yin attacked and Maya kept dodging them. During the fight, Cecilia accidentally bumped into Ling Yin, so Maya took the opportunity to attack them all at once and managed to beat them with a single rocket. Shifu told them that this is how powerful the teachers are in using the IS. She then decided to divide the students into groups, with the suits leading each group, including Ichika and Charles. Cecilia and Ling Yin began to prepare to use the suits according to their leader's instructions, and Cecilia and Ling Yin were furious that they had special suits as they wanted to join Ichika's group anyway. Kyoka from Ichika's group is the first to try using the IS. Ichika realizes that Charles is in trouble as he has a hard time adjusting to the eccentric behavior of the girls. After Kyoka finished using the suit, Haoki approached them to try on the suit and used the opportunity to get close to Ichika, then told him that she couldn't reach the top of the suit, and when Maya realized it, she asked him to carry her up. Haoki felt embarrassed and hid behind the suit after Ichika activated the suit so that he could carry her, and although she was blushing, she felt happy in his arms and imagined that they were a prince and princess like in romantic stories. She decided to offer him lunch on the rooftop after practice and was happy that he accepted, but they unexpectedly ended up being accompanied by the rest of their friends after Ichika invited them to help Charles get along with his classmates. Then the girls showed Ichika what they had cooked, as each of them prepared the food that is customary in their country, so he decided to start with Cecilia's food, but he felt nauseous from the horrible taste and decided to try Hoki's food, which he liked, which made the rest of them jealous. Then they were surprised when he approached her to feed her himself. Charles noticed that they were on good terms with each other, which infuriated Cecilia and Lingyin, so he suggested that they all eat each other's food, and Ichika ended up surrounded by Cecilia and Lingyin. In the evening, Charles chatted with Ichika in his new roommate's room, feeling happy that he was spending time with another boy like him, and asked if he could join him in practicing IZ after school, and Ichika didn't mind. The next day, Maya introduces a new student named Laura who came from Germany to join the academy, and the students are surprised that there are 2 students who transferred to the academy on 2 consecutive days, and Ichika realizes that she came from the same place as his sister when she was working in Germany, and is surprised when she approaches him and slaps him for no reason and tells him that she will not accept his recognition as Chifuyu's brother. Ichika was training under Haoki, Lingyin, and Cecilia until Charles joined them and asked to duel Ichika because he wanted to try fighting against his suit. After a while, they started fighting in front of everyone and kept exchanging attacks until Charles got a safe distance away from him and resorted to long-range attacks. Ichika noticed that his armor's energy was dropping like crazy until it reached 0. Charles was able to defeat him in a short period of time, and the girls began to scold him for his ignorance of the nature of long-range weapons, while he found Charles' explanation easier to understand than theirs when he told him about the characteristics of his suit. When they returned to continue training, Charles gave him his sniper rifle to practice with, but Ichika hesitated to take it since he was not allowed to practice with other people's weapons, but Charles told him that he could use it after he gave him permission and started helping him aim well. On the other hand, the girls were irritated that Ichika and Charles got close to each other in a short period of time, while Ichika was able to adapt to the weapon quickly, and while practicing they were surprised to see the German model of Laura's suit. When Laura finds out that Ichika has a special suit, she doesn't hesitate to challenge him to a duel, but he refuses because he has no reason to fight her. However, she quickly attacked him, but Charles blocked her with his shield and decided to face her instead of Ichika, which infuriated her since she despises the French, and when Chifuyu's voice interrupted them over the speakers, Laura decided to resume the fight later. After training, they head to the locker room, and Charles decides to go back to the room first to take a shower. Ichika feels as if he is uncomfortable changing in the room with him, so he suggests that they change places every now and then, and Charles feels so embarrassed that he rushes out without completing his change of clothes. In the evening, Ichika sat thinking about what Laura wanted from him and why she was acting like that. He noticed Laura and Chifuyu around, so he hid behind a tree to eavesdrop on their conversation and found that she was begging Chifuyu to come back to teach her to use the A's in Germany and expressed that she felt bad about them being in a place like that. Chifuyu realizes that Laura has become condescending to those around her and calls her arrogant. She rejects the idea of returning to Germany and tells her to go back to her room. As she leaves, Ichika is surprised that she sensed his presence from the beginning and advises him to use his free time to do some training instead of eavesdropping. Before she left, he asked what Laura meant by not wanting to recognize him as her brother and wondered if it had anything to do with his having disqualified her from a tournament in the past, and she told him not to worry about it. Ichika recalled that he was kidnapped on the day of Chifuyu's decisive match at the second Mondo Gross tournament and was tied up until Chifuyu came and rescued him after sacrificing the final match of the tournament for him, causing quite a stir at the time and serving as an instructor for a year in the German army as a reward for their help in finding him. Ichika began to blame himself for what happened and that it was all because of his weakness, and began to see himself as a pathetic little brother. When he returned to the room, he found that Charles was still in the shower and noticed that there was a bottle of body soap, so he decided to bring it to him, and when he entered the bathroom, he saw Charles completely naked and was shocked by the fact that it was a girl and neither of them could say anything. When Charles finished showering, she went to sit in the room and there was silence between them. After a while, Ichika decided to break the silence and made some tea for them to drink together, but he was accidentally stunned and rushed to put his hand in the water. He then asked why Charles was pretending to be a boy, and she told him that her father had ordered her to do so and began to tell him about her past where she was living separately from her father, and when her mother died after 2 years she returned to him, and that's when he took her to his company and did some tests on her, and they found that she had a high intensity level of AS. She has only seen her father twice in her life so far, and although her father's company specializes in third generation IS suits, her own suit is a second generation model. The development of third generation suits has become very important, which is why Laura and Cecilia moved to the academy to obtain experimental data. Ichika wondered what all this had to do with her pretending to be a boy. She told him that she had to do so in the hopes of being able to communicate with him and collect data on his suit, as well as to attract publicity attention, and she felt relieved that she could finally tell him the truth and apologize for deceiving him. Ichika felt bad about her father abandoning her and treating her like a tool that he wanted to make the most of, and told her that he and his sister were abandoned by their parents and that he never felt like meeting them. He then asked her what she was going to do next. She told him that she would have to return to France after her cover was blown and she could be sent to prison. He asked her to stay at the academy Germany and keep her identity a secret, as no one would be able to harm her as long as she was a student at the academy. Charles felt grateful to him for wanting to protect her. They were interrupted by Cecilia's knock on the door. When she entered, she found him sitting by Charles' bedside, telling her that he was feeling a little sick and was taking care of him. She excused herself and offered to take Ichika out to dinner. On their way out, they ran into Haoki, who was jealous of her attachment to him, so she decided to join them for dinner for a second time and ended up being dragged around like a kidnapping hostage. After a while, Ichika returned to the room and brought some food for Charles. When she sat down to eat it, she found it difficult to use chopsticks, so he went to get her a fork, but she told him that she would take care of it, so he told her that it's not bad to rely on others sometimes. Charles is embarrassed and decides to ask him to feed her, and he finds himself in a predicament because she took his words the wrong way, but he decides to keep his word and feed her. Meanwhile, Laura looks up at the sky and vows to get her revenge on Ichika for tarnishing her trainer's image and decides to remove him from her path. The next day, the students were whispering among themselves about winning the class league and getting a chance to go on a date with Ichika, and when he entered the classroom with Charles, each girl rushed back to her table and wondered at their suspicious behavior. Afterward, Haoki sat absent-mindedly wondering how it had leaked out that she wanted to go on a date with Ichika if she won the class tournament, since it was supposed to be her own request and she had vowed to win the class tournament no matter what. Then she remembered as a child when she lost in the final of the kendo tournament due to negligence, as her sister Tabane decided to announce the invention of the AIS at the time. Public opinion was concerned that it would become a dangerous military weapon due to its capabilities, and the entire family was placed under heavy guard. She ended up living separately from her parents and had no information about Tabane's whereabouts. Despite the difficulties she faced, she never stopped practicing kendo, as it became the only link between her and Ichika. She kept practicing and crushing her opponents violently to vent her anger and decided that she would win this time for herself. Meanwhile, Cecilia and Lingyan were on the training ground and decided to have a fight to decide who was the best, each using their own suit, but they were interrupted by Laura's appearance and attacked them suddenly, mocking her for traveling all the way from Germany to Japan to pick fights with everyone. Laura expresses her displeasure that people like them have third-generation suits like hers and tells them to attack her together, as she can't lose to idiots like them, which infuriates them even more, and they rush to attack her. On the other side, Ichika and Charles were walking around when they were surprised to see the girls rushing to watch the fight on the training ground. He was surprised that Laura was able to block Lingyan's crushing blow and realized that she was on a completely different level than the others. Laura then manages to take them all out at once after tying up Lingyan and throwing her towards Cecilia. As she approaches them to shoot them, Cecilia fires at close range, causing a loud explosion, but surprisingly, she doesn't take any damage. Ichika decides to intervene and uses his suit to break through the ring's barrier and rushes towards Laura, but she easily blocks him, and he suddenly feels like he can't move. She then taunted him as a fool for following his emotions and told him that he was not a worthy opponent to go to the trouble of facing him, and decided to finish him. But Charles intervened and started attacking her from long range, while Ichika picked up Lingyan and Cecilia to get them out of the arena. After he succeeded in keeping them safe, they felt embarrassed to be defeated by him, while Haoki felt angry that she didn't have a personal suit and there was nothing she could do but watch. Then Laura managed to grab Charles and kept pulling her towards her until she could attack her, but she was surprised that Chifu stopped her at the last moment. She then berated them all for destroying the ring barriers for a fake battle and decided that their personal battles would be decided in the class tournament only. Laura could only comply and took off her suit, followed by the others. Ichika then went to visit Lingyan and Cecilia at the hospital, and they said they could have won even without his intervention. Charles felt they were overreacting and said they should be embarrassed to show up like that in front of the person they love. The girls were confused and denied being in love with Ichika. He then asked why they were fighting Laura in the first place. None of them could answer him honestly. Cecilia justified it by saying that Laura had hurt her pride as a woman. They were then surprised when all the girls burst into the room and gave them a report on the changes to the class league rules and found that the participation system had been changed to a two-person team instead of fighting individually, and that the partner would be determined by lottery. Ichika tells them that he intends to team up with Charles, and they storm out of the room, but Lingyan and Cecilia don't give up trying to convince him to team up with one of them. Maya interjects to tell them that they can't participate in the class league because the damage to their suits has exceeded level 3, so they have no choice but to cheer for Team Ichika so that no other girl will have a chance to go on a date with him. In the evening, Charles is grateful for Ichika's help in deciding to team up with her in the league. He replies that he wanted to do so that no one would find out about her, and when they return to the room, he tells her that she shouldn't force herself to act like a male when they're alone. He then decided to leave the room to give her space to change, but she told him that she didn't mind his presence and that it might arouse suspicion if he met someone outside. He realized that she was right and thought they should change while turning in opposite directions. As they were changing clothes, Charles screamed in pain after tripping. Ichika involuntarily turned around and saw her kneeling on the floor half naked. She blushed and kicked him away. As he fell asleep, sleep, Charles felt for the first time that someone needed her and cared about her. The next day, Ichika and Charles prepared for their first match as a team and found that they would be dueling in the presence of talent scouts and match officials, and when she noticed that Charles was distracted, she realized that he was thinking about his match against Laura and asked him not to let it affect him. When they looked at the draw, they were shocked that they would have to face Laura and Hauki after becoming a team based on the result of the draw. When the two teams head to the arena, Laura expresses her excitement to face him in the first round to get rid of him early and focus on the tournament. As soon as the fight starts, Ichika attacks her, but she easily blocks him and makes fun of his plan to attack directly and predictably. Then she decided to blow his face off at close range, but Charles appeared in front of her and started shooting, but she couldn't hit her completely and continued to attack her until Hauki approached her and engaged her to stop her. However, Ichika made a move to block her, but they were surprised to see Laura pull her partner back and throw her away to attack Ichika alone, and when she tried to return to the battle again, Charles blocked her and was able to eliminate her from the fight after her armor energy was reduced to 0. With Hauki eliminated, Ichika decides to end it with his next attack and uses the full power of his suit, while Charles acts as bait to provide an opening to get close enough to Laura. Ichika was able to dodge his blow in time and continued to try and catch up with her, and with Charles' help, he managed to do some damage to her suit, but soon found himself in trouble as his armor's power was weakened and about to run out. Laura took the opportunity to knock him out of the fight, but to her surprise, Charles used a flare propulsion technique that she hadn't read anything about in her suit's specs and continued to fire a non-stop barrage of bullets at close range. Laura thought she would be safe using her protective barrier, but a bullet pierced her suit from behind and found that Ichika was holding Charles' rifle. As she focused on him, Charles took advantage of the opportunity and got close enough to penetrate her armor and drain a large portion of his energy, and Laura ended up getting a crushing defeat. Laura had a flashback to her past and thought that it was impossible for her to lose at their hands, as she had grown up fighting and training and was in the S level of the German army and devoted her entire life to fighting until the IS, the most powerful weapon in the world, appeared, and she ended up having a chip implanted in her eye, which was considered a failed experiment because her body did not adapt to the new situation sufficiently. Then she met Chifu, who became her idol and was responsible for her training, and thanks to her, she was able to use the eyes efficiently until she decided to leave to protect her younger brother, at which point she developed a grudge against Ichika for causing Chifu to give up his status and immense power and vowed to become stronger to avenge him. Laura uses her full power and fuses with her suit so completely that it swallows her up. All league matches are cancelled, security is raised to maximum, the venue is cleared of spectators, and Laura is transformed into a giant monster. Ichika decides to stop Laura, but he quickly loses his suit with a single blow and can't keep up with her, injuring his arm and noticing that she is fighting in the same style as Chifu. Ichika felt angry and thought she was making fun of him and almost lunged at her, but Hoki caught him just in time, but he kept dodging until she forced him to stop with a slap, and he remembered when his sister used to teach him to fight with a sword. Hoki told him that there was nothing he could do now that he had lost his suit. A moment later, support forces arrived and surrounded Laura's monster from all sides. Charles approached Ichika and gave him some energy through her suit's connector so that he could activate it again, and asked him to promise not to lose again or he would have to come to school in a girl's uniform. Ichika accepted the challenge and reactivated his suit's system, summoning the sword only when Laura turned toward him, at which point he gathered his strength and placed it inside the sword in preparation for a confrontation, and after the two began to clash, he succeeded in splitting the monster in half and pulling Laura out from the inside. In the evening, Laura regained consciousness after dreaming that she was talking to Ichika and asking him why he wanted to become stronger, and found Chifu sitting by her bedside, who told her that what happened was the result of the legendary tracking system banned by the IS Treaty but implanted in her suit and activated after her desires combined with her state of mind and will. Before she left, she told her that she could become Laura from now on if she didn't have a real identity, but she couldn't replace her. On the other side, Ichika sat having dinner with Charles, frustrated by the tournament's cancellation, and the girls who were most affected by the decision were those who lost their chance to go out with Ichika on a date. When he noticed Hauki near him, he went to her and told her that he agreed to go out with her. For a moment, Hauki did not believe what he said, but she pretended to be cold and asked him why he suddenly agreed. He told her that he wanted to fulfill her request because she is his childhood friend, and when he said that he intended to go out with her only for shopping, he was surprised that she hit him and left in a rage. Maya joined him and suggested that he take a break with Charles in the newly built men's restroom. Charles had to shower with him in the bathroom to avoid detection, and she was embarrassed the whole time in front of him. Then she wanted to talk to him about staying at the academy and told him that she decided to stay for his sake and asked him to call her Charlotte from now on when they were alone, as it was her real name given to her by her mother. The next day, Maya confusingly announces that a new student has arrived at the academy, and the girls are surprised to find that it's Charlotte in her new suit as a girl, and Hauki is outraged that she's been spending all this time with Ichika, who is basically a girl. Then they were surprised surprised when Lingyin broke into the class wearing her suit and intended to attack Ichika, but Laura saved him just in time, and no sooner had he realized what was happening around him than she kissed him in front of everyone and told him that he would become her husband and had no right to refuse or object. A few days later, Hoki called her sister Tabane, who was busy at work, but she realized why her sister was calling her and told her that she had finished working on her own suit and that it would be of the highest technological specifications possible. The next day, Ichika woke up and was surprised to find Laura in the room and sleeping next to him on the bed. She woke up to his screams and found that she was completely naked, so she told him that they are a couple and should not hide anything from each other. Ichika marveled at her behavior lately, but she continued to get close to him and treat him like a husband. When Hoki entered the room and found them in a suspicious situation, she got angry and beat Ichika up. Afterward, he and Charlotte went out to buy a swimsuit to go to a course near the beach. When he called her by her former name by mistake, she got angry with him. After they arrived, she told him that she would forgive him if he held her hand all the way, and Ichika agreed so that they wouldn't get lost in a town they didn't know well. Meanwhile, Lingyin and Cecilia were watching them from afar. Lingyin was furious when she saw them holding hands, but she was interrupted by Laura's presence and told them that she hadn't come to harm them but wanted to join Ichika and Charlotte. Cecilia told her that they should follow them first to determine what kind of relationship they had. As they watched them, they found that Ichika had decided to consider calling Charlotte by a special name when they were alone, and she realized that she was special to him and was thrilled. They continued walking around until Ichika noticed something and asked her to go to the clothing store without him as he would want to buy something else now. On the other side, Dan and Ran had finished shopping after Ran bought several swimsuits for the summer. When Ichika suddenly appeared behind her, Dan almost told him the real reason, but she kicked him away to talk to him privately. When she realized that he had come to buy a swimsuit, she wished she had known earlier to let him pick out a special swimsuit for her. Then she told him that she had decided to attend the RIZZED Academy next year. Charlotte interrupted them and dragged him into the clothing store and told him that she wanted his opinion on the dress she had chosen. When he marveled that she had taken him into the fitting room, she motioned for silence and looked outside to find the girls looking around for them. Laura finds that there are many different swimsuits and notices that the girls are carefully selecting their swimsuits to impress their husbands, causing her to experience a kind of culture shock, while Charlotte feels that she is in trouble and has to keep Ichika inside as long as possible until the girls leave. She decided to change her clothes in front of him and put on the swimsuit she had chosen, but he quickly felt embarrassed and turned away, trying to think of something else so he wouldn't imagine her naked, and while he was lost in his thoughts, she told him that she had finished changing. When he turned to her, he found her wearing a beautiful yellow swimsuit. As soon as he gave his opinion, Chifu was surprised to find them in such an awkward situation, and Maya sat down to scold them and give them a lesson in manners. In the meantime, Laura called her boss, Clarissa, and told her that she was going to attend a course at the beach. She told her that she had to get her best swimsuit to impress Ichika, and said that she had a good plan up her sleeve. A few days later, all the students went to the beach to have fun. Maya told them to return to the hotel by dinner time, and all the girls were eager to spend time with Ichika on the beach. He was surprised when Cecilia joined them and asked him to help her apply sunscreen oil to her body as he had promised. He felt confused after putting some on his hand and hesitated to touch her body in front of everyone. After he finished massaging her back, she asked him to massage all the parts she couldn't reach, but Lingyin took over the rest of her body and continued massaging her until Cecilia got up and asked her to stop, at which point Ichika saw her completely naked and ended up swimming in the water after she hit him. Then Lingyin joined him and offered to swim together. She started to swim before she heard his response. Suddenly, her leg cramped up and she couldn't keep swimming and started to drown, so Ichika rushed to her and saved her. As they sat on the beach, Cecilia took the opportunity to take her out of the competition and dragged her back to the hotel with one of the girls, and was surprised to see Charlotte with a strange, mummy-looking stranger who turned out to be Laura, but was too embarrassed to walk around in her swimsuit. Charlotte continued to convince her that it was okay to see her outfit until she took off her clothes and thought he would make fun of her, but she was surprised when he told her that she looked attractive in that outfit. Then the other girls offered to play a volleyball game against them, so he decided to team up with Charlotte and Laura, and they played a 3-on-3 game, but Laura was distracted and kept thinking that someone called her attractive for the first time in her life until she fell down after the ball slammed into her face. Maya and Shifu join them, which is Ichika's first time seeing his sister in an unusual way, and Charlotte finds it complicated by the fact that she has a lot of competition for Ichika's heart and attention. In the evening, everyone returned to the hotel for dinner, and Ichika was sitting next to Charlotte and Cecilia. He noticed that Cecilia was uncomfortable sitting like everyone else and told her that she could sit however she wanted, but she pretended that she was fine and didn't want to make a fuss after winning the seat so hard. Then she was surprised when he offered to feed her himself after realizing she couldn't use chopsticks. All the girls were jealous and angry when they saw him feeding her, while Haoki ate her food in silence and stared at him with suspicious looks. Chifu rushed in and ordered them to eat quietly and warned Ichika not to make a mess. After she left, he whispered to Cecilia to come to of his room later because he wanted to talk to her privately. She was surprised and thought he wanted to spend some time with her and maybe do something special. After that, Cecilia kept preparing the things she wanted to give him. Meanwhile, Han noticed that she was wearing sexy underwear and caused the girls to rush towards her, forcing her to take off her clothes, and started calling her a pervert for resorting to this method to arouse Ichika. After that, she managed to evade them and headed towards Ichika's room, but she noticed the other girls eavesdropping outside, and when she got closer, she found that Ichika was in a meeting with his sister, and there was a suspicious conversation going on inside, so they kept approaching the door until they ended up inside the room and found Ichika massaging Chifyu's back. The girls sat down in front of her, confused about being caught, and were surprised when she offered to get a massage by Ichika and found that he personally didn't mind. As he massaged Cecilia, Chifyu noticed that she had come wearing sexy underwear and intended to deliberately tease Ichika. Curious as to why they liked Ichika so much, the girls were surprised that she wanted to talk to them about her brother and told them that they would have to reach her level in order to win him over. The next day, Ichika found Haoki sitting staring at something intently. When he approached her, she told him she had no idea what was in front of her. After she left, he found what looked like 2 rabbit ears buried in the ground and a piece of paper hanging up asking him to pull them out. When he did, he was surprised to see a rocket landing on him, which turned out to be a carrot-shaped ship from which Tabane emerged. When she sees Ichika, she asks him where Haoki is. Finding him confused and unable to say anything, she decides to find her using her motion detector. As soon as she leaves, Cecilia approaches him and is surprised when he tells her that this girl is Haoki's sister Tabane. After that, they all gather to train under Chifyu's supervision. Before they start practicing, Tabane jumps towards Chifyu like a little girl to hug her, but Chifyu stops her from getting any closer, while Haoki hides behind a rock, not wanting to meet her. However, Tabane finds her, and when she is about to approach her, she hits her. When Chifyu asks her to introduce herself to the others, they are surprised that this is the genius scientist who invented and developed the IZZED. Then they are surprised by a rocket landing on them, which turns out to be Haoki's new special suit, and she tells them that it is very special and superior to all existing suits, as it is the 4th generation. Haoki couldn't believe that she finally had her own suit. When she put it on, Tabane made some quick adjustments and then told her to try flying in the sky and told her that the suit would move according to her thoughts. Haoki was amazed at the suit's speed and weaponry, but they were interrupted when Maya rushed over to Chifyu to tell her that a robot had attacked an area off the coast of Hawaii, and Chifyu decided to cancel her training and head back to headquarters. Chifyu finds that the 3rd generation robot is on the rampage and is currently 2 kilometers away from them after escaping from its observation area, and tells her students that they must stop it within 50 minutes. Then they found out that the robot is very similar in characteristics to Cecilia's suit and has the ability to fly at supersonic speeds. They decided to think of a plan to take it out, and Chifyu told them that they would have to take advantage of the opportunity to take it out in one fell swoop. Ichika was surprised that he was in charge of taking down the robot, but the issue was how to get to the robot, and they needed a suit with super speed and sensors. He was furious at their decision that he would be the one to take care of the robot, and Chifyu told him that he would be in a real fight, not a training exercise, and she wouldn't force him to participate if he didn't have enough determination. He decides to be brave and agrees to their plan. Tabane interrupts their conversation and suggests that they use the capabilities of Haoki's new suit to get to the robot. As she is testing the suit, Tabane mentions something about the White Knight incident 10 years ago. Ichika remembers what happened that day when Japan was attacked by 2,314 missiles after Tabane announced her creation of the IZZED. A woman in a silver suit appeared and blocked all the attacks on Japan, and her suit was later named the White Knight. Cecilia suggests that Ichika and Haoki participate in the attacks and she will be useful to them thanks to her suit. Chifyu decides to start the mission 30 minutes later to give them a chance to prepare and tells them that the goal of the mission is to dismantle the robot's body, and Ichika decides that he must succeed in the mission no matter what. Ichika stands near the beach and activates his suit with Haoki, who he notices seems to be enjoying the fact that she finally has her own suit. Then they receive a call from Chifyu, and she tells Haoki to support Ichika in his mission as much as possible without forcing herself to fight, as she still has no experience fighting with her new suit. Then she secretly asked Ichika to support Haoki in case something happened, as her high spirits could cause trouble during the mission. Then they started flying at full speed towards the alien robot, and Ichika was surprised at how fast Haoki was and held on to her until they were close to the target. Haoki tells him that they will engage him in 1 minute. Ichika prepares to jump towards the target and uses his full strength to launch a thunderous attack, but the robot realizes their presence and tries to fly away, and they continue to chase him until the robot attacks them. Ichika thought of a double attack from both sides, and Haoki decided to try to block his movements. After getting close enough, Ichika almost took advantage and finished him off, but he noticed a ship sailing below them and retreated from the attack. Haoki thought they were just criminals or mercenaries and decided to ignore them, while Ichika refused to put their lives in danger and took heavy damage from the robot attack. She scolded him for defending near criminals, but it was as if they had been transported teleported to another world for a moment, and he told her not to be cruel now that she had power in her hands and that she should be kind to the weak. Haoki began to feel bad about herself. Then her thoughts were interrupted by the robot's attack on them, and before the beam could reach her, Ichika rushed towards her to protect her and took all the damage for her, causing him to fall into the depths of the sea near the ship. After a while, Chifu felt that they had reached an impasse and that their plan to take out the robot might fail. She then received a call from Charlotte wanting to participate in the battle, but she refused to involve her in the matter at the moment, especially since Ichika had not regained consciousness yet. Laura remembered Chifu's reaction after they rescued Ichika and pulled him out of the water, while the others marveled at her cold demeanor despite her brother's near-death experience and their failure to execute the plan to get rid of the robot. Laura tells them that Chifu is in a lot of pain, so she deliberately locked herself in the operating room and focused on the alien robot. On the other side, Haoki is sitting next to Ichika, who is in a coma after the attack and is so remorseful that she hasn't said a word since she returned with him. She remembered his last words to her and told him that she didn't mean to condone them, but that they were just criminals who were breaking the law and causing trouble for the system, and marveled at his ability to forgive them and his desire to protect them, and felt ruthless compared to him. Then Maya came in and asked her to get some rest on Chifu's order so she wouldn't pass out, so she had to leave in silence and kept running for no reason, and remembered her first encounter with him when she was being bullied as a child, and Ichika was the one who defended her and called him an idiot for defending her when he didn't even know her. Lingyin came back to reality and told her to stop being depressed and negative, and when Haoki told her that she would never wear her own suit again, she immediately slapped her and told her that people who have personal suits can't act as selfishly as she does, calling her a coward. Haoki is furious and wonders what she should do when they don't know where the enemy is, but she still wants to fight, and the other girls join her and tell her that they all feel the same way, that they refuse to lose or fail in this challenge. Then Laura locates the robot via satellite, and it is 300 kilometers from the beach, and they all decide to join together and go to eliminate it, and Haoki vows that she will not lose this time, and in the evening they head to where the robot is, and Laura attacks it and manages to hit it, but it was not harmed. Meanwhile, Chifu and Maya find that they are disobeying orders, but Chifu knew that this was going to happen, and Chifu was aware of it. Laura continued shooting at the robot, but it rushed towards her at high speed. Before it could reach her, the other girls started attacking it. Charlotte continued to chase it, but was surprised by a surprise attack from it, which she narrowly avoided with her protective barrier. For a moment, Haoki felt nostalgic at the sight of the sky and had a flashback to her memories of Ichika. Charlotte continued to dodge his attacks until Charlotte and Haoki started chasing him and trying to hit him from behind. However, the robot continued to dodge them until Haoki was able to get close to it, but the scenes of Ichika kept playing in her mind. The robot took advantage of her distraction and grabbed her and tried to pull her up, but she managed to split it in half and drop it into the sea. However, it soon caused a huge flood and came back up again after changing its body shape and started forming a thunderstorm around them. It managed to knock Haoki down and then started targeting each of them individually. When Haoki fell, she felt helpless and unable to move, and before she lost consciousness, she wanted to see Ichika one last time, but she regained consciousness after hearing his voice and was surprised to find him flying in front of her in his suit. Then he told her that he was fine and could fight, and when he found her crying, he gave her his handkerchief, and she was surprised that he still remembered the day she was born on July 7. On the other side, Chifu and Maya were unable to communicate with the girls until they found the others breaking into the room to tell her that Ichika had regained consciousness and went to the robot to fight beside them. Maya is surprised to see that Ichika's suit has taken a more advanced form after seeing him rush towards the robot and attack it with full force, and Haoki gathers her strength to fight alongside him, and they meet up with the others and decide to end the matter immediately to return home. To Haoki's surprise, her suit has regained all of its lost energy and is at full power, while Ichika has only 10% of his suit's energy left, yet he rushes in at full speed to finish off the robot. Haoki then approached him and gave him a portion of her power to restore his energy. Then they all rushed towards the robot and managed to attack it in one go, but it was counterattacking, and the exchange of attacks continued until they felt the danger of their energy dropping significantly. Ichika took advantage of his distraction between his friends and rushed towards the robot, and finally managed to finish it off and crush it with one blow and held on to it until he made sure it was destroyed. The next day, Chifu scolded everyone despite their success in completing the mission for committing several infractions and decided to make a special disciplinary training for them when they returned to the academy. Then she felt embarrassed before admitting that they did well in defeating the alien robot and expressed her happiness at their safe return. Then they all returned to celebrate with the rest of the students and have breakfast together. Then the girls noticed the absence of Ichika and Haoki. In the evening, Tabane sat watching the battle through the recording and was impressed by Haoki's suit's ability to regenerate, but Chifu interrupted her and told her that this ability is somewhat similar to the White Knight's ability. She then indirectly asked her if she deliberately moved the Ia's suit that Ichika touched on the day of the entrance exam to be admitted to the academy, to which she replied that she had no idea how the suit moved that day, even though it was an unusable suit. Shifu wondered if she wanted to draw attention to Haoki's debut by causing the alien robot to become agitated, as Tabane is known to be a genius after having hacked into the military hardware of 12 countries in the past, and was surprised when Tabane disappeared after she asked if she thought the world was interesting. On the other side, Ichika was sitting alone, thinking that he was able to protect his comrades and accomplish the mission, when he found Haoki standing behind him in a swimsuit and told her that he was glad that everything was back to normal and that his wounds were nothing serious. Haoki expresses her displeasure with herself for causing such a serious wound and can't believe that it healed in such a short time, and tells him that she will never be able to forgive herself for what happened. He told her that he intended to punish her and asked her to close her eyes, and when she did, he gently hit her head, which made her feel angry at his disregard for her. Then she realized that she was too close to him and retreated a little, and then Ichika gradually approached her, but the others interrupted them and decided to finish him off for sneaking here alone with Haoki, so he had no choice but to carry her and quickly escape from their attacks.